a workforce, that part of the reason some of these people are not employed is because it's not cost beneficial for them to be hired.
Yeah,
and that's why they become unemployed.
Well, yeah, and the cost of living, of course. You have a lot of people out there that are homeless that are very well educated. They just don't have an opportunity to get that foot in the door, to get that job, and then have a sustainable place where they can actually have a job and pay those bills to stay there. Mm-hmm. The cost of living in Los Angeles is about $2,200 per month. Just think about that. Somebody having a job where they're getting paid $11.50 an hour and working 30, 40 hours a week, they're barely cutting it.
Yeah, you're living with 3 or 4 people, which is the way a lot of people do it here in Los Angeles. I think you've also got a host of problems with regulation and the fact that other homeowners don't want you building houses, certainly not low-rent sustainable housing. That's going to be a nightmare. Not in my backyard campaigns and all of this stuff. And so everybody complains about the homeless population, but nobody really wants them, because they're just now talking about setting up camps on public land in Southern California outside of San Diego, right? In Orange County, right?
Huntington Beach, and they're against it. But there are claims that the land has some sort of chemical poisoning going on.
Oh, whatever. So it's just an excuse. That's just what they're using to try to keep. But my point is,
they want to help
nobody. They want to help them just away, just somewhere else, helping them somewhere else. Which, okay, fine. But how do you do that? Because you really need to do a combination of things. You need to make it cheaper and easier. Because the first thing my accountant said when I said I was moving to California was, "Don't hire anybody. You will be okay if you don't hire anybody." He said, if you hire anybody, it is a flipping nightmare. He said the amount of paperwork you have to do. He said the costs involved with trying out all the stuff you got to give them, the regulatory burden on business owners in hiring people in this state is unreal. He said, do not do it, and you'll be okay.
It's a lot of businesses that come here within their first year end up leaving because they file their first tax return and having to itemize, hundreds of different purchases that they've made and expenses, etc. It's just that much of a burden and a headache. They'd rather move somewhere like Massachusetts or,
Sure, you can write Arizona, New Mexico. All these states are much more business friendly than this one is. Nevada, is another great state that you can go to that's much more business friendly. And I'm just wondering at what point, because people what I am seeing in the demographic shift is that you are getting low income and middle income people who are leaving the state. The people who are the number of Maseratis and Bentleys that I see between here and my house is unreal. Right. Like the concentration of wealth here is incredible. But there's extremes. You either have a Bentley or you're driving an 86 Pinto, right? There's very little middle ground in here because most of those people are shifting away.
Right.
And the question is, at what point does the state realize that all of the businesses start to leave? Because that's what'll happen next.
The middle class is the ones keeping those businesses afloat.
That's right.
You're not going to see any, Silicon Valley executive pumping their own gas,
right?
Or working at Walmart or any of the middle class income earner jobs that sustain our economy here in California. Yeah. I mean, we're the 6th largest economy, but that's by default. We're not even trying.
Right.
We're not trying to help that majority of people that could actually boost our economy and possibly could make it number one. Mm-hmm. So that's really the transition that we need to make is, like you said, remove those regulations that are preventing these businesses that would love to hire someone for maybe $8, $9 an hour. Mm-hmm. Give them an opportunity to build up their resume and get off of the streets.
Yeah.
You have people digging through trash cans making about $25 a day. But what if they were doing that, working at some office, doing custodial work or maintenance,
and learning a skill? And I think about it, and when you get the cost of labor down, if you've got somebody who's getting off of the street and is getting out of an alcohol or a drug addiction or something like that, a lot of the reason that people stay in those drug addicted and alcohol addicted lifestyles is because they don't see any other option. It's like, I'm never going to make enough money to be able to afford a place to live. I'm never going to find my way off of the street. If you let's say you just eliminated the minimum wage altogether, and now you got guys that you can hire for $2 an hour. right? I guarantee you there's some studious entrepreneur out there who can buy an old warehouse, convert it into like squad-based style living where you can have these guys who are making 2, 4, 8, I don't know what it is, whatever dollars an hour, and they can have a transitionary place to go where, hey, for $40 a month, for $50 a month, they got a cot and a wall locker.
Exactly.
And having been in the military, I know you can survive. You got a cot and a wall locker and a group shower down the way. Hey, that's all you need.
Yeah.
That's enough to get back on your feet. That's
and
enough
these are
for you to get back
innovative
out.
ideas.
Yeah.
And it's pretty much, like I said, returning the power of helping each other back to the people of the community, opposed to thinking that government has all of the answers. It does not. It clearly has not provided us with many solutions to our problems. So if we, again, give the power back to the people of the community, I think we'd see more of an outcome and a solution, permanent solution to these problems. Even with the homeless issue, it's little intricacies that kind of connect it. For instance, if you're homeless and you're out there and you get a ticket for jaywalking, if you don't show up at court to pay that jaywalking ticket, now you have a warrant for your arrest. You get picked up, you're arrested, now you're in the system.
Yep.
And it's just, and that's kind of like what's happened, the recurring system that a lot of these people are seeing. So if you remove those type of arbitrary laws, if you remove the income tax, as well as remove the regulations for people to provide lower, the minimum wage laws.
What do you think about something like a basic minimum income? Do you feel like that would be advantageous to the current system? Would you, if someone proposed, I know that's been proposed here in California.
Yes.
Would you be in favor of that as a substitute to the current, smorgasbord of different, services that they provide, or would you just want to get rid of that altogether?
I would just want to get rid of it altogether. If you want to do the universal basic income, more power to you.
Yeah.
You create it, you make it independent. It doesn't need to be under government control. Government's role is to pretty much play the middleman. So if we have them in charge of it, it creates a conflict of interest. So if you want to have a universal basic income provider, where they're now voluntarily receiving contributions from people of the public to provide that, then great. The welfare programs that exist, they need to have expiration dates. So if you're receiving, money for your child up until the age of 18, that needs to be changed.
Right.
So I definitely would make some reforms to our welfare system, and I think something reasonable like 1 to 3 years for your support of your child would be something that would be more advantageous for us and more affordable for us as taxpayers, having that money being spent towards that, if we choose to.
So you take a kind of a position I do, which is really like, look, the current system is messed up. Universal basic income would probably work better than the current system because it would take some power away from the state and just eliminate the bureaucracies and everything else. You would be happy with taking kind of a half step and saying, look, maybe we do this on, instead of until 18, we give you like 3 to 5 years, so that you could, it's kind of a safety net for you to get back on your feet, but not a lifestyle.
Exactly.
And then, so we start moving, and this is what I talk about when I talk about a game of inches, right? We're taking inch by inch. Naturally we would want to have a private sector that handled through charitable means all of the homeless population and all the people who are down on their luck. We don't have that right now. What we have is a gigantic government mess.
Right.
So if we can move the needle in any way a little bit closer to liberty, a little bit closer to free markets, I'll take it.
And it's an inch turning into a mile.
That's right.
So just that little bit of a cut itself is now going to reduce the amount of debt that we have in the state.
Right.
And again, return the money back to the people where it counts.
Yeah.
And because they're the ones that are keeping the economy afloat, they're the ones that are keeping money moving from hand to hand.
Yep.
So the more money that they have in the pocket, of course, and their pocket, of course, the better for government and the state itself.
Okay, so before we go, I want to ask you about immigration, because that's something that's a problem in California, and also the sanctuary cities that has been in the news recently. I want to get your thoughts on that, because that's both a national and a local issue that I think everybody can relate to. So talk to me a little bit about what is your opinion on the sanctuary cities and their decisions to obstruct immigration and customs enforcement? And what is your overall opinion on immigration and what we need to do both about the movement of immigrants across our southern border, because that's really what we're talking about, southern border, and also what we do with those who are here?
Well, our elected officials need to be held accountable. So first things first, they need to be upholding the United States Constitution. And the federal government only has jurisdiction over the process of naturalization, not immigration. And it's awful that in a nation where the majority of the people here that occupy this land come from another country. Mm-hmm. So we can't be discriminatory towards individuals that want to come here and create a better life for themselves. That's inhumane. So we need to get back to the basics here and start loving one another. And as kumbaya as that may sound, that's really how the government works. That fine balance is the Constitution. So if I'm upholding the Constitution for one person, I can't discriminate against another for that. Okay. So if I'm going to swear to uphold it, within that is the 10th Amendment, which is any law that belongs to the state is, essential to that state itself. Mm-hmm. So it would be my duty to uphold that and enforce that against the federal government. So they wouldn't have any jurisdiction here in the state. Okay,
fair enough. So in favor of the cities and the state being able to set its own immigration policy, what about you personally? Do you believe in kind of because the kind of love each other quote tends to lend itself towards a belief that you follow an ideology of open borders? Are you in favor of just the free flow of immigrants across the borders with no checks and balances at all? Or is there some room in there for the government, the state of California, to be managing who's coming across the border?
Well, I think it's just a matter of security, and that needs to be the focus of our law enforcement officials here in the state. There is no focus on that. It is more so a restriction of a person expressing their freedom, which is being able to move from point A to point B, right, no matter where it may be. Mm-hmm. So with the country of Mexico, I think there needs to be a better relationship established. The reason why a lot of people think there's a lot of trouble or violence, etc., crime coming from Mexico may be drug related. Yeah. If you decriminalize it, now what's the problem? Yeah. If you, and with this wall idea, and what's so absurd about it is the majority of the immigrants here in this state of California come from China. They come from India. So they aren't from Mexico. So a wall isn't going to keep those people out. They're coming here in planes. They have money. We want to invite the money here in the state.
California wants the money.
Exactly.
They need it.
We need the money. Right. So if anything, we don't need to be building walls to keep out that money at all. And if that relationship with Mexico was taken in a better direction of where it was friendlier, and you take away those regulations that prevent individuals from being able to have an opportunity to create a business now. Here in California, we've also made marijuana recreational. Right. So now it's taking away that criminal activity, that black market activity that used to be frowned upon, and now your neighborhood weed dealer has an opportunity to build a business. Right. If we decriminalized all types of substances, now you have an opportunity for all of those providers to provide a product to those consumers. It'll be safer, and it'll be an opportunity for the buyer to be able to do so where they're not going to be having to do so in the dark.
Yeah, because there's no real risk of me trying heroin. I mean, there just isn't. Right. I think but the people who are using heroin, there are a lot of problems with the use of heroin. Number one, just control of the quality of the product that's being delivered is troublesome. These people don't know what they're buying.
And a lot of these people have addictive personalities. Correct. Also. Yeah. It could be other issues related to that, and that's what Portugal actually found out. For the past over a decade now, I believe, since 2001, they've been decriminalized for all substances. And Where now, if a person has an addictive trait, they send out the, human Health and Human Services Department to assist those people and give them rehabilitative treatment to help them. They give them psychiatric help. A lot of these people have, mental disabilities. So,
well, one of the things I noticed too